Pay us enough to f***ing live or afford to live. At least pay us enough not to do this. Should have paid us enough to live. You know, we may not get paid enough to live, but these dirt cheap. All you had to do was pay us enough to live. All you had to do was pay us enough to live. All you had to do was pay us enough to live.
Dude just crashed out. You're a victim, bro. Victim mentality, weak. You're weak, bro. You're a victim mentality, man. Like, oh, well, they're not paying enough to live. Man, they enslaved my ancestors, had us working for nothing and erasing our language and our lineage and everything. We went through that and shook back and bounced back, bro. Disgruntled employee Shamil Abdul Karim, a brown man, is accused of purposely starting a fire at the 1.2 million square foot Kimberly-Clark distribution center, where a lot of well-known paper goods are kept in Ontario, California. Oh, this was in Cali. I've been seeing a lot of weird stuff going on in California. People walking up to people's houses, doors, asking for their daughter, like all type of weird stuff. And it's, of course, it's in a state where you can't bear arms, because you can't do that nowhere else. The fire started shortly after 12:30 a.m. on Tuesday and quickly spread through the massive blocks, which is the size of 11 city blocks. According to police, Abdul Karim was an employee of the NFI Industries, a third-party distributor for Kimberly-Clark. He was arrested and remains in custody. He also reportedly posted a video on social media where he could be heard saying, "You should have paid us enough." They're about to throw the book at him, if y'all don't know.
Initially reported missing, but later accounted for. Ontario police now say that person was placed under arrest and is at the center of their arson investigation.
He was a current employee of Kimberly-Clark, and he is in custody for arson.
Fire officials say the blaze appeared suspicious almost immediately, pointing to the fire's rapid spread and the possibility of more than one point of origin.
Upon making entry, continuing to try to locate the seat of the fire, they quickly realized that there was fire throughout the structure.
That forced
he said that he didn't hurt them at all. This will hurt us. Not only did he not hurt them, but they're from the file. The biggest insurance claim I already heard, they said, yes, $100 million of products alone for just paper in there. So
firefighters,
people are looking at him like a stand-up Samaritan, but I feel him no different than Max Azzarello dude. People don't even know who he is no more. I would never forget this guy ever, because I knew it was gonna be in vain. I knew like this was gonna be I knew this situation was gonna be in vain. So if y'all don't know what Max Azzarello is, he went to the Trump trial in Manhattan and woof, it flamed his shit. He flamed himself, bro. Like, so I'm like, yo, he did that to prove a point. He did, but nobody even remembers his name, Max Azzarello. I remember his name more than a lot of people, his own people probably.
The underpaid employee who burned down the Kimberly-Clark warehouse, whose CEO, mind you, makes $16 million a year. He did that for all of us. We benefit from his act of resistance in what is a class war that more working class folks need to acknowledge. Starvation wages are a form of violence on a human being's body. Lighting a warehouse on fire, that's a message. And that company should be grateful. The message was just to inanimate objects. Resistance shows up in a lot of ways. I'm not advocating for violence, but just know that violence is being inflicted on us. And if there's ways...
I was listening big on CC. He always said this. He said, you can't push around white American male. You can't push around white male American males for too long without them feeling like they box in the corner, feeling like they got to attack. And you got to think about these people. They go to different parts of the land and colonize, right? So now that they're going through a form of uncomfortable government, it's like, oh, this is so bad. When there's been people that have been living in this for years, it's for... All I'm saying is, right, this is the perfect time to be alive in these times, bro, because you could create your reality. Like, with everybody that's complaining about inflation and how the money... There's some people making the most money they ever made in their life. Like, it's literally two ends of the spectrum here. And it's all on your perspective. So you could choose to be a victim mentality and say they're not paying us enough, because they don't. A job is not meant for you to do nothing but work and be a good worker. Good worker bee. They don't want you to get out of the worker bee. You know, they don't want you to be an adept. They want you to be a drone, like man that fell from Earth. I firmly believe CEOs should be legally allowed. All that. It's no point even reading all that because it's all in theory. But let's read it. All these theories, bro. Let's make the money. Get out of the industries that don't pay you. Get into the ones that do. Why are you wasting your time? Because you're doing something that's society. Listen, I accepted that. Listen, I'm going to do what I want even if I'm broke doing it. So now that I'm becoming successful doing what I want to do, I accepted that I would be broke doing what I want to do. But y'all working these jobs, you accepting these responsibilities. The brown man probably wants to move up in the matrix. He want to get him like you burnt that down because you couldn't afford to live, right? Why don't you leave California? Why don't you relocate? Why don't you go back to your homeland? Why don't you do these things like you couldn't make it? Why are you complaining? There's some people in different parts of the world that wish they was in the position you was in, that had a job, and all they had to complain about was they're living the price is everything's too high. There's people that wish they can complain about the prices being too high. It's some people that's in situations where they can't even, they're in parts of the land where they're stuck. They're stuck. There's no getting out of their situation. That was a free man working a job. You could have easily went a million different routes than that, because now he's finna, guess what? He's finna go to jail and work for 11 cents an hour. So you just finesse yourself, bro. I firmly believe CEOs should be legally allowed to make 10 times their lowest paid worker salary. So if you pay your employees $15 an hour, $30K a year, the most you can make per year is $300K. If you pay your employees $40 an hour, $80K a year, you can make $800K. In 2024, the average worker pay ratio for S&P 500 companies was 285 to 1. So while employees making $30K per year, the CEO is making more than $8.5 million. Oh my God, that's, well, why don't you stop being a average worker? I get it, but what about all the employees who just lost their jobs and now have no income until they rebuild? They are far more affected. Exactly. What about all the people that can't go to work? You think they just gonna pay them? I don't know. The CEO could be generous to the workers who didn't do anything wrong, but he won't, because he's greedy and will play the victim. So it's still the CEO fault. They're still crying about the CEO. The CEO gave you a job. He didn't have to give you a job. You accepted and signed the contract. It's no different than niggas that got the record deal. Oh, these record labels, bro, they signing us, bro. They stealing our rights. Well, why did you sign if you didn't understand? I could see like 2010 you signed a deal and you complain about a record deal, but bro, even in 2010 the information was out there. The information is always out there. And I understand the lawyers and the record label execs and all them work together, right? So it's like it's meant for you to make a dumb decision. But when people be complaining about these contracts and like the Pooh Shiesties and them, like, bro, come on, man. The information is out here, man. It's business. It's business, bro. And I know you like, oh, you're just deep into capitalism, or you're just this, and that, or, bro, no matter what time and era or period we was in, you would have to work for your survival. You would have to work for your honest. No matter what time era you was in. So
you notice how the news is talking about the worker that burned down that warehouse? All he said was, you should have paid us enough to live. You notice how they're not talking about how much he's being paid or the cost of living in that area? Really makes you think. I don't know. I think what he did was pretty effective.
You got to understand that man who was very frustrated and disgruntled, who burnt down that toilet tissue warehouse facility, it don't shock me that more incidents like that don't happen. And the fact that he burnt down that facility and
it's about to start. Look at this. Before we get into this video, let me show y'all this, right? I just saw this video earlier. Look, this Amazon. So they slap, look, somebody in the comments said, are we doing this? Look how they weigh on society. Look how they weigh on the collect. Are we doing this? Like, is it okay to do? Like, yeah, we're gonna all do this now. Are we doing this? Look, look. Let's look how this person profile is. Like you're posting Rampage Jackson memes and bugs and stuff. And all type of creatures in your yard and stuff. Okay. We gotta really start you gotta really start. So this is in Phoenix, I think. Also in Ohio. They got a Jefferson Street and everywhere. Yeah, though, man. So it's happening at Amazon. People are burning these buildings down.
Who was very frustrated and disgruntled, who burnt down that toilet tissue warehouse facility. It don't shock me that more incidents like that don't happen. And the fact that he burnt down that facility and cost that company hundreds of millions of dollars. Oh, you're going to see more companies in America fall like that and get burnt down. The government, the United States government, is going to have to do something about. They're going to have to raise the cost of living. These companies exploit American workers and illegal immigrants every single day, 365 days a year in America. That's why before immigration and before Donald Trump became a big deal, most of these American companies, they love to have immigrants own these companies because they could pay them $7, $6, $8 an hour and exploit them. Why a lot of times they made hundreds of millions of dollars paying people peanuts. America is the most corrupted country in the world in this sense. One minute they love the immigrants because of cheap labor. Now they want all the immigrants out of America when they don't no longer need it, when they don't fit the narrative. Imagine what black people have went through for centuries in our own country. We have been exploited for centuries. Still to this day, modern day slavery is still here in America. Exploiting people is still here with these American toxic jobs. They exploit people every day, whether you're an American citizen, whether you're a foreigner. That man might be facing up to 20 years, but that man might have sparked a greater debate in our country. Pay people a livable wage. Pay people a livable wage. And so many people defending that company. And I'm like, at the same time, that CEO of that company is making like $15 million a year. Why they have so many struggling workers. That shit is not right at the end of the day. If you have a company grossing millions of dollars, you need to pay your workers a livable wage. But everybody, go buy my book, No Toxic Co-Worker, How to Protect Yourself on Jobs. Series 1 edition on Amazon.com by J.R. Leonard. Everybody, I appreciate y'all support. Appreciate the likes. Appreciate the reposts. Have a great day. You got to understand that man who was very frustrated and disgruntled, who burnt down that toilet tissue warehouse facility.
One thing I will say though is people is waking up and they're not just gonna sit and take things. Like we're past the era of like people just accepting like, oh well, this job ain't gonna pay me nothing. Even if they're not like doing anything about it financially, at least they physically doing something. At least just letting people know that they're not just gonna sit here and accept 30 years at 7-Eleven and all you get is a gift card for $10, like that type of shit. I don't know if y'all ever seen them type of videos, like an employee that works somewhere for so long and they don't ever get nothing. Yeah, man. Somebody said you got Agent Smiths trying to defend the corruption and toxicity in the Matrix. It's not that when I called him a victim, it's not saying that it's okay to work a job and slave at a 9-to-5, because I hate 9-to-5s. I hate jobs. But there's some people that say like, well, everybody can't be an entrepreneur. Everybody can't be this. It's not about that, bro. I feel like wealth shouldn't be tied to your damn occupation. Like, why did they teach us that the only way you can get money is getting a job? They never taught us about stocks, investments, entrepreneurship. They never taught us about like a lot of things. credentials, bloodlines, deeds, bro, like land. It's a lot of things they just skip over the beat. So with situations like with this young man that went into that establishment and burned it down, he's about 7 years older than me, 6 years older than me. You crashed out, buddy. Usual suspect. You crashed out. That's all it is.